Hello, if you are watching this, then you chose to work on your own sugar skull for our for the Day of the Dead celebration that we've learned about happens in Mexico between October 31st and November 1st. So here's a finished sample of one of my drawn sugar skulls. So I'm going to show you how to do this. You will need a piece of brown paper bag paper. If you can't find this, then you can use a piece of colored paper to draw on, or you can use a piece of white paper to draw on. But either way, you'll need some kind of a large piece of paper. You'll need some kind of a large circle. This is a lid to one of those big ice cream tubs that works really well. A paper plate would also work really well for this. You will need either a black crayon or a black oil crayon. So either a black crayon or a black oil crayon. You will need crayons, oil crayons, and or paint. These are the tempera biggie cakes that we have here in the art room. They're blocks of tempera color. So any of those for color, and either a white crayon or a white paint for the actual skull when you're done. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of in the middle of the page. You're going to place your circle that you're going to trace. And I'm going to do this really lightly with my black crayon. You could do it with a pencil first, but I like to do it right with the oil crayon. And I'm going to start at the top and go down and stop a little more than halfway down. Probably at the, if this was a clock, this would be at the 8. And I'm going to come around this other way. And if this was the clock, I would stop at like the 4. So kind of the 8 at the 4. If you go down a little more towards like, it would be the 7 and the 5. I wouldn't go past that. So once I have that, then I can go back over it darker. I just want to do it light first so I know where I'm stopping. Okay. Then I can lift that. And I'm done with this. I can get that out of my way. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is do kind of a rectangle shape. I'm just not going to close it off at the top to connect these two pieces. And that's going to end up being in the bottom part of my skull. You can make it as long as you need to make it. That's about how long I'm going to make mine. Okay? So there's my rectangle shape. So this whole choice board is talking about shapes. So as we go, you're going to hear me talking about using shapes to draw things. And also, we're going to be filling our skull in with different shapes, different geometric shapes. So here at the bottom, I'm going to do the neck, which would be made up of vertebrae. And I'm going to do ovals stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to do a small oval, and then a bigger oval, and stop it at the top, like that. And then after about 3 or 4, depending on where your sugar skull is on your paper, I like to give it shoulders. I'm kind of making this like almost like a portrait here. Okay, so there's my beginnings of my skull. This is where I'm going to use shape to really give it some decoration. You should have watched after reading the book. I posted a video about how sugar skulls are made and designed. So that should really influence you to do some cool stuff. So I'm going to start out with the mouth. I'm going to do my mouth this way. Sometimes the sample that I showed at the beginning was more of a real smiley mouth. So I'm going to do that. I guess that looks kind of like a smiley mouth too. And then I'm going to add eyes. I'm going to do kind of a circle or an oval for my eye. I'm going to do an upside down heart for the nose. Okay, so again, adding shapes. I might come in here and do some pupils. And I'm going to do a circle inside the circle, because this is when you want to start doing some detail. And then I might do triangles. around the eyes. So zigzag line, but since I'm closing them up around the eye, it's making triangles. So remember, we're focusing on shape while we do this. So think about the different shapes you can add to this. Okay. The other thing we want to talk a little bit about is being symmetrical. That means what you do on one side, you do on the other. If I split this in half, what I did over here, I would do over here. So if I'm going to do, let's say, a half circle on this side, then I would want to do a half circle on this side. I'm going to give kind of a crescent shape for eyebrows. You can give your skull eyebrows. I'm going to do maybe some triangle shapes down here. I'm going to do a diamond shape in the very middle of the head. So if I drew a line through, it would be half the diamond, half the diamond. And then I'm going to do kind of a bumpy shape here. Again, trying to do, and maybe I'll do another heart here. You could do a star. Now, the other thing that you want to think about as you're doing this is if you want this skull to wear a hat, you could give it a hat or a sombrero to wear. I'm going really lightly with my crayon because I don't know that that's what I want to do. I was thinking about going more along the lines of Frida Kahlo and doing some flowers. And if I went over that, that's okay because I can color right over that. I'm going to do another flower right here. Maybe that flower will come from behind, like that. And do another little flower right here, and I'm going to make that flower come from behind too. So that's when you do that whole pretend line that I talk about all the time. Okay, just like that. So you can get as detailed with this as you want. Another crescent shape here, so I'm going to put a crescent shape here. Okay, so after that you want to talk about adding color. You can again add color in several different ways. I am not worried about the white part of your skull right now. I'm worried about the adding color part. You can go in with oil crayon and press really hard and add oil crayon to your sugar skull and color it in that way. You can use regular crayon, and if you use regular crayon, you want to press really dark and waxy. The sample that I showed you right here, this is regular crayon that I pressed really dark and waxy with. Anything that you don't cover with crayon is going to end up being white. So think about that as you add color. I'm really liking this oil crayon. The other thing you can do is just go full out paint. So here's a sample of one that I've started that I drew with the oil crayon, and then I just started adding my colors with the tempera cakes, with the biggie cakes. So you could do that as well. Either way, you want to add color to all of your shapes, and make sure your color is also symmetrical. So if that's yellow, that's yellow. If that's green, that's green. If this is orange, that's going to be orange. So I'm going to work on this for a little bit longer, and then I'll come back and show you how to paint. So I have nearly finished my skull. I still have to work on a couple of the flowers up here at the top, but it's done enough for me to show you what the next step is. One thing I want to encourage you to do is to use something called a limited palette. That means I chose 3 or 4 colors, and those were the only colors I used. And it really helps focus a little bit. So I only used bright green, purple, yellow, and orange, and then a little bit of black. And of course, I'm going to use white with this next piece. Now, if you were choosing to paint instead of using oil crayon, I used a smaller brush. I made sure that my paint was really thick as I went in. nice and bubbly and thick, and then I went in and painted. And the oil crayon kind of helped my paint not mix together. So that is an option for you if you don't want to do the crayon or oil crayon. So next I'm going to take some nice clean water, and I have a big brush, and I have my paint. And I am going to rub on this white paint until it gets nice and thick for me. When it goes onto the brown paper, it might look a little watery, but as it dries, it will dry that white. So you don't want it to be too watery. Oops, I accidentally hit that red. And now I got a little bit of pink in there, so we're gonna put some more water on my brush and clean that up. That does happen occasionally in these sets. So here's my nice thick bubbly white. So I'm going to go in and paint my skull. Now, it does look like it is covering a little bit, and if you want to try to paint around it, you can. But when it dries, you'll be able to see that color through the white. It's going to look really, really cool. It'll just put enough white on that brown paper to look really cool. And again, you can paint around it if you want it to be even brighter in color. I'm painting right over the top. And then making sure that I have a little bit more water on my brush for later. If it looks like it's covering it up too much, I'm putting a little water on my brush and spreading that out. And it is going to kind of ball up a little bit on that paint, which is what you want it to do, because water and oil or wax don't mix. So I'm going to come paint down here too. I would normally color those shoulders, like actually give them a shirt, so you can do that with your oil crayon. I just wanted to kind of move along and show you how to add the white. When it dries, I'm going to move that out of the way, it will look a little more like this. So you can see there is some white on the crayon, but that crayon kind of shows through the paint, so you have a nice, bright, fun sugar skull. I hope you have fun with this. When you are done, take a picture of it and upload it to your Google Classroom or Seesaw, whichever platform you're using.